Welcome everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Sorry about the time delay. Oh man, I'm a little flustered. I'm a little sweaty. We just had a new setup. We just made some pretty cool new setup stuff for the live stream. And not kidding, finger over the go live button, and all of a sudden, one of our HDMI cables completely cuts out, and so I had to screw around trying to see which one it was and what was happening. I've got the karaoke. Well, turn yours off. No way. You've turned aux off. Aux microphone. Your microphones are all on your lip. Producer Rachel over here is still learning some buttons. You hit it? Turn it off. Bob's your uncle. There we go. No more echo. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, we were having technical difficulties. So I did this beautiful new setup, which is super cool, and I'm very excited for it. And the second we were about to go live, finger over the button, over the go live button, and one of the new cameras just cuts out completely. And so, well, long story short, I have had to rewire about half of the setup here in the last 5-10 minutes. So we've had some excitement already. But the cool part is we do have new cameras. So we've got one over here, that's our palette cam. That one's normal, which that one we've had. That one's actually gonna be moved because I'm working on another cool thing. It's gonna be up in this direction instead, so you can see the painting at the same time. We also have our normal main camera, which is camera 2. That's this one. So you've seen this one before as well. But now we've got camera 1, our fancy camera. Now you can really see, as I paint here, you can see some really nice detail. So yeah, and this is the camera that cut out. Unacceptable, had to fix it. So, let's talk for a second. I'm very excited. We're doing some pretty cool stuff. As you can see, we're working on the second layer. That's why I got the that zoom lens, the new zoom lens in there. So we're gonna do some cool things with that. Also, before we start, here I'm gonna cancel my face tracking so I don't get sick. I got, oh yeah, you're on the other side of the easel here too. You were over there. What are you doing over here? Oh, good to see you over here. Anyway. Just so my microphone works a little bit better. But now you get the background over here. You don't see my painting as much. I don't know. We're messing with things. I also got this lens, though. Before we start, I want to just tell you about my cool new toys. So this one is a 420 to 800 millimeter lens. And it is utterly absurd how huge it is. Oh, my goodness. Oh, jeez. I have a very tiny camera that this goes on, and the dichotomy between the two is hilarious. So, I took some quick photos out the window and with, you know, my new telescope, and got some very, very weird and funny results. It's a cheap lens. It's not great, but it is a lot of fun. I've had fun with it already. It's pretty cool. So, you know, maybe we'll get some funky shots of that. I'll zoom way in on my painting from the other side of the room. That'll be funny. Its minimum focal distance is 9 feet away, so the camera has to be at least 9 feet. Pretty funny. The other one, though, the other thing that I've been working on is this, and you can see it a little shiny. Not quite as shiny as it should be yet. There we go, a little bit of shine on it. It's got that dark spot. The dark spot is some glue from the wood, but so this is just plywood. I cut it out, I routed out that little section at the top there, and I'm making a palette for myself that's gonna go on the easel, and holds my medium cups, are gonna go right there. So that's what that little cutout is for. And then that's gonna be my new palette on top of the easel. So yeah, you can see it's a little bit shiny. That shininess, that's layers and layers and layers of refined linseed oil. And every day I put at least one layer on and let it soak in for about an hour and then wipe it all off. And in doing so, you get this very slick, kind of glassy finish to it. which won't absorb oil paint. If you're ever trying to paint on a palette and it kind of soaks in like that, it's because you have an unfinished palette. So you just got to put oil on it every day for about a week or two. So this has been a few days. It's not quite ready yet. And like I said, you get that weird dull spot that's not absorbing oil. That's okay. It just means it's not going to be shiny and pretty like the rest of it. So I'm working on that as well. But for today, I finally got, Rachel, if you could go to the second camera there. I finally got the first layer totally finished, and I've got that right side finished, and I got this little, oh my goodness, this was just a pain in the butt. I got it done, not too bad, honestly. It was, it wasn't great, but yeah, there you go, not the end of the world. The concentric circles, the concentric ellipses, I should say, are pretty difficult. There was some occlusion going on with the front face of that cap. All the little lines, everything. Very difficult, but I don't know. I think I spent a day on it. You can see there are some inaccuracies in those ellipses, and it's all a little, I don't know, a little crisp, you know, a little too stiff. But it's the first layer. It's a great outline for the first layer, and there's some adapting that I'm going to be doing in the second layer. But now that that's done, because that's the thing I was avoiding, now that that's done, we're going to start in at the second layer, and I'm going to start the same way, which is over here from the far left side. And the reason now that you can see I've got 3 of these, I'm having triple vision here, the reason that I've got 3 of these now is one of them is my laminated copy, which I'm using to color match. One of them is my normal reference, which I'm using as like my one-to-one actual reference for what I'm trying to paint. And the reason that these are different is because the lamination process kind of decreases the contrast a little bit, brings the darks up just a little bit. So it's not quite as accurate as I would like it to be. I guess in theory I could reprint a reference that has a little bit higher contrast, darks are maybe a little bit darker. So try to balance that out, then laminate it, and then paint just from that, color match just from that. That would be fine. I could do that as well. But the way that I'm using this here is that my laminated reference is my color matching reference to a point, right? I'm going to be using it to get as close as I can and seeing if anything is wildly off. Now, that's not something that I have done before, so I imagine it won't be totally necessary, but maybe in my initial color matching, it'll make me a little bit faster. I'm not sure. We're gonna find out. I used it a little bit in my first layer, which again, not something I normally do. I haven't done this technique before, but I used it a little bit in my first layer, and I found that I was mixing my colors a little closer and a little quicker than usual. For my second pass here, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. And those details of, well, it's a little off, it's not perfect, I'm not gonna let those go in my second layer, where in my first layer, I did. So more likely, I'll be working most from my normal printed reference, and I don't know, every now and then I guess we can double check on the laminated reference, but I think I'm gonna go back to my typical and see how it goes. Oh, also, we've got our little mascot here. I don't know if he'll stay there. We're gonna have a man down just like last time. There we go. Put him right there. Yeah, so I have done a little bit of pre-mixing. All right, so let's get the palette cam going. So I've done a little bit of pre-mixing here, and I have all the normal colors. Nothing has really changed as far as my palette is concerned. I have done a little bit of pre-mixing strings. Now, normally in the second layer, I wouldn't do that at all. However, I wanted to save a little bit of time and the noise of scraping for the live stream. So I've done a few little pre-mixes here, just up in the corner of the painting is all we're going to be working on. So a quick few for pre-mixes, and I will be adjusting these as I go, which is why I typically don't do the pre-mixes on the second layer at all. It's because I'm going to have to adjust them, quite often. One more thing I want to mention, we've got and today just a little bit, but you can see there's something in it. We're actually going to use some medium today. This is Neil McGilp. It does not affect our dry time at all. That's pretty important. I don't really want it to affect the dry time. But we are going to use it. We're going to thin down our paints just a little bit.
We're getting a no data warning, and it says the stream will end unless you restart. I'm going to go to be right back.
Yep. All right. There we go. Oh, I can see myself and myself. All right. Sorry, guys. We're having a few problems with the stream. It's coming down to our internet connection once again. So sorry about that. I have a few people in the chat. Yeah, what's going on?
You do have a few people in the chat. Yeah. One of them is Chris Herrera.
Chris, it's good to see you.
Everything looks amazing. Your brother Zach says looking good.
What's going on?
And your mom is enjoying some popcorn while she's watching the live stream today.
Lucky. I want to enjoy some popcorn. All right. How's our stream health looking? Are we a little bit better?
It says excellent connection.
We still look a little choppy from here, but all right. Hey, well, you know what? We're gonna take what we can get. You know, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm enjoying streaming. I'm enjoying doing it. It's been a pain in the butt to be streaming here in the DR with our current internet connection, and that, you know, we're kind of practicing our streaming at this point for probably the summer when we're gonna really change some things up. So yeah, it's okay. You know, not a big deal. We're learning from the experience for sure. Oh, here, you know what? I want to show you guys. Actually, I can't do it without putting my hands all over the camera. Here we go. So I want to show you guys. Yeah, look at that. That's our cool new camera setup back there. We got our double cameras. Isn't that cool? Pretty exciting. So yeah, we're still just making improvements and trying new things out anyway. And I had to try to center myself on the camera. All right.
Just a heads up, I am getting another bitrate warning. So it's possible that we may cut out again. If so, I'll just go to break time and we'll take it from there.
Yep. Yeah, we're trying to change our bit rate to match what our internet can handle, which is close to nothing, it turns out. But we're doing the best that we can. Yeah, if it continues to happen, not a big deal. I'm just going to do some painting, and you know, you never quite know here if there's going to be significant internet issues or power issues or what have you. And it is a perfectly clear day outside. There's nothing that should be causing this, so it truly just is where we are. But yeah, if it continues to happen, I don't know, maybe we'll find some different solutions in the future. We could just start doing some pre-recorded and uploaded YouTube videos instead of live streams. We'll probably do that a little bit more often. I do want to keep up with the live streams though. It's really cool. It's really exciting to talk with you guys live and, you know, hear any questions and comments you might have. I really enjoy it. So with that said, it looks like you're talking. What's going on?
I was just going to say thank you for your patience in the meantime.
Yeah, true. Well, tell you what, we're gonna just keep trucking along and see what we can do today. And if it keeps happening, if we can't get a ton finished because of it, not a big deal. We'll try again later. I do want to try streaming during the week sometimes, because part of our issue truly might be because it's the weekend. We've noticed that the country limits a lot of our utilities and power and stuff like that during the weekend, because everyone is just hanging out, and it won't affect anyone's work in the country typically. It affects ours, but yeah, so maybe that's the cause of it. So maybe we'll try some weekday streams here coming up. I don't know. We'll let you know. We're still just experimenting. And this little tiny painting is our time to experiment. So both in the way that I am painting and in the way that we're live streaming. So yeah, we'll just keep going with this. Oh, it's a little Inception thing going on. Oh, wait a minute, that's this. That's this one. That's that one. There we go. I added a new camera, and oh, there we go. I added a new camera, and now Rachel just has to, on the fly, learn the new camera setup without, you know, any experience on it. So, not her fault. Producer Rachel doing her best. All right, tell you what, let's get started. Yeah, so I've pre-mixed a few of my colors here. One thing that I want to note with the black, most of my colors here are just sort of neutral browns, a little bit warmer, a little bit cooler. But one thing I want to note, I have pre-mixed a black here. And the black that I pre-mixed is mostly just black. This is ivory black. But I don't want to use ivory black straight out of the tube. The reason is because it dries a little bit different than all the other ones, and most of the time it dries a lot slower. Every now and then though, I've noticed these boards, the ampersand gesso panels, they really pull the oil out of the colors. And for the black, for whatever reason, sometimes I've gotten a really odd kind of powdery film on the top, and sometimes it just sort of sits on the top and it dries normally, it oxidizes normally, but it's sitting on top instead of oxidizing, integrating with the rest of the paints. And a little bit of that is the gesso board, right? It's the ampersand gesso panels. Some of it though, plenty of it, is the black. It's the color itself. And if you were to use ivory black, a little bit more see-through, but also just dries at an odd rate, dries a little bit slower. So what I've done here is I've mixed it with some other colors, mostly this raw umber here. So it's around, I don't know, 30% raw umber. I've also mixed it a little bit with my, let's see, which one did I mix it with? I think it was actually phthalo blue. Was it ultramarine? I don't remember. If I'm honest, I just go, you know, it doesn't really matter. A little bit more blue. And then it started to get a little too blue, so I warmed it up just a little bit, thinned it out just a little bit with my alizarin crimson. So the dry time should be, I don't know, relatively similar now to the rest of the paints. This raw umber dries pretty fast, and the black and the alizarin crimson dry a little bit slow. So yeah, we're probably hitting an average rate now for our dry time. And it should at least help all of our odd drying issues and non-adherence issues. And it doesn't come up very often, if I'm honest, but it came up once and I didn't notice it until I was at the end of the painting. And then all of a sudden my black started coming into all my other colors. I'm like, what is going on? I haven't painted black in like 3 weeks. So yeah, it was a bit of a struggle. So now I've learned and I'm not going to take the same chances again. So I've pre-mixed my black. It's more of a chromatic black at this point, honestly, anyway, which you'll notice when I put it on, it looks significantly darker than if I were to put on just the normal black. And part of that is because it's more of a chromatic black. Part of it, though, is because now it has a little bit more oil in it. And you may notice with black that sometimes you put a little bit of extra oil in it, and it will give it sort of that vibrancy, that depth that you get after it's been oiled out or varnished. So that's sort of what I'm emulating by adding it just a little bit too much oil. And the effect is subtle, for sure. Maybe we'll do an experimental kind of panel one of these days, and I can show you what that looks like. But it's definitely there. It doesn't quite look black. And then you add something a little bit extra to it, now it visually looks darker. So weird, kind of an interesting thing about the black paint that I use. In the future, I don't know, maybe I'll change up my black paints a little bit. Gamblin's chromatic black, I used to use that a lot. Honestly, at a certain point, just use the colors that you're used to, but unless one has any significant properties that you like. But for this instance, ivory black, we got it here. It's convenient to use. That's what I'm going to use. Or I'm sorry, not ivory black. What is it? Oh no. Ivory black's the one I'm not using. Oh geez. Anyway, I'm thinking of all my HDMI cables I had to just re-plug in. I'm out of it. My brain's all over the place. Anyway, so the other thing, lamp black. Yeah, thank you.
I got it.
Thank you, producer Rachel, and materials expert Rachel. Yeah. So the other thing that I'm using, yep, is this Neo McGilp here. I'm going to be using this to oil out some of my colors. So let's do that now. Going to be getting just a little bit of that. Actually here, I'll put it on the palette so you can see what I'm doing. I'm really getting a very, very thin layer. I don't want much of it at all. And then we'll zoom way in on our painting and see what it looks like. All right, so there's our painting. And I will have to adjust our camera colors just a little bit because I'm finding that it's a little too dark and it's a little too high saturation, a little too high contrast compared to real life. So let's just oil out just a little bit. See how much darker that's getting there? You see that? I don't know how well you can really tell, but yeah, it is definitely getting darker. It's getting a little bit more vibrant. So I'm just going to oil out the aspects of the painting that I think I'm going to be working on today. And I'm just kind of scrubbing at it. Now this is very dry, and I've already run a brush over this section so that I can get rid of any dust or anything that's in it, because I really don't want any dust, anything entering my second layer. Really don't want that. So yeah, I'm just gonna brush in this corner a little bit. And I won't go too low. I would continue down here, but you can't see it. We're zoomed in too far, so we'll stop just up here today. Move our way over instead of up, that's fine. Or instead of down. So yeah, so we've got this little section oiled out now. The reason that you want to do that, there we go. The reason that you want to do that is so that you can really see what you're working on, and you get a better idea of the actual colors that you've put down and how they can be adjusted. And you know, I'm using fairly transparent layers at this point because I am adding some of that Neo McGilp into my paint. So they're not quite as opaque as they were on the first layer. We could make them opaque if we felt that we needed it. Some of the whites some of the lighter areas, I will definitely be doing that. You can see on his mustache here. You can also see, by the way, I think it's very funny, just the actual scale of this painting compared to my just enormous looking hands. Right here. Okay, this will really show you the scale. Oh, there he is. Anyway, we're having fun. Yeah, I'm enjoying myself. Okay, so we've got our, this is just a 0. This is a Princeton Imperial 0, and pretty small brush. Definitely not the smallest that I have. Let's see, we also have a double 0 here. We'll probably end up using that at some point later on. Maybe as we get into some of the detail down here, we'll come to that double 0. We do also have a triple and quadruple 0 of the Scepter Gold 2 brushes, but probably we're not going to be doing that today. I think as we get into some of the details of that cap, then we'll be using that, but not today. So we're going to go in with our black, and I'm just going to cover over what I already have, and it may look like I'm doing just nothing at all, and sometimes that's true. Sometimes I am doing just nothing at all. But I'm adding a new layer here, and even if it doesn't look like I'm changing anything, well, first of all, I am, but even if visually I'm not changing anything, I am adding a second layer to the topography of the painting, and that topography is very important as you get later into the painting. And what I don't want to see is one section with higher topography than the other, because I felt like it's not visually going to change anything anyway, so I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to put that second layer on the painting, on all of the painting, even if it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Although I will say, as I get into this kind of brown right here, you'll notice that because I've put new paint there, it's gonna move and mix and fade into that black much better. So whether the actual section that I just painted is going to look different or not, a little bit irrelevant, because it's going to make the rest of it a little bit easier. So I'm using another pre-mixed kind of black here. This one has just a little bit higher ratio of that raw umber in it, just to lighten it a little bit. Raw umber is a pretty dark color, so I'm not really changing my value much. I am just a touch, because if I really look at the reference, looking here, as I said, it's a little bit too high contrast, this camera, so you can't really see what I'm doing, but if I look at my reference, this one area right here that I just painted in, it's not pure black, it's close, but it's not black. So I'm going to lighten it just a tiny bit, and I'm doing that with my, there we go, just doing that there. Just lightening it just a tiny bit. As I said, I'm going to adjust my colors as I go. How's our stream health? Are we looking better?
Right now, it says excellent connection.
Weird that it goes back and forth from excellent to nothing, but okay, I'll take it.
Your dad did say the audio and video are really good today.
Okay.
So the internet can't be helped, but otherwise, it's going well.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Good. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's stabilized and we won't have to worry about it. We'll see. So I'm moving over to the right here, and I'm gonna check this color on my laminated image, just my color checker there. And what it looks like to me, my laminated image, my color looks a little too dark, but if I move over into my reference, it isn't. It absolutely is not. So I'm going to continue. This is why I have so many references on the board right now. And actually, I don't know if you can see it. Can you switch back to my wider reference? There we go. Can you see? Oh yeah, you can see it just a little bit. I got another one up here. This is just the full reference. So anytime I want to just stare at my reference longingly, I can. And I don't have to move anything. That is something that I do often. I get to look at my painting and the reference above it and think about how I wish I had made better decisions when I was painting today. That's okay. Something that I tend to do here. So I'm just checking my reference. That color, again, yeah, it says that I'm too dark over here, but if I just hold it in front and compare, that's not too dark. So something that I tend to do, and I've been trying not to do it, because I don't know that it's very healthy, is I will take a picture of my work at the end of the day. This happens more in the second layer than any time else, because it's when I'm making these larger changes and adjustments and I'm starting to get a good picture of what the overall painting's going to look like by the end. So I do it a lot here. I'll finish out my day and I will take a picture of my painting, and then I'll, go back home, think, yeah, I did a really good job, and I'll have dinner, and yeah, it's all great. And then I'll look at that picture, and then I'll keep looking at that picture, and then I won't stop looking at that picture. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, this is awful. I'm gonna have to redo everything I did today, and my painting's terrible. And then I go to sleep, and then the next day I come in, I'm like, hey, this is a really good painting. Nice job, me. Oh, I really did it. Did a really good job. And I just do that over and over again until the painting's finished. How's it looking? Oh, I'm leaning a little too far. Sorry, that's my fault. Can't see what I'm doing. I can see what I'm doing. You can, here, tell you what, you look at the back of my head.
And the front of your head.
And the front of my head. Hey. There you go. Okay, let's switch back to the zoomed in. Yeah, there we go. See a little bit more of what I'm doing. So I'm just moving across right here. And you know what? It looks like you're picking up, yeah, that camera's picking up just a little bit of the reflection. So you're seeing, here, tell you what, I'm gonna tilt that and see if I can change it. So yeah, keep it right there. So you're seeing a little bit of the kind of, yeah, right there. There it is. So that's the texture of this board. You can see it's got this kind of sandy texture to it. Really interesting. Yeah, pretty cool. And I like this. Again, this is just for reference how small this is. I'm gonna put this brush up to it. Really, really small, that texture. But you can, it's cool. I can't actually see it with my eyes, but you can see it just a little bit since you're zoomed in so far. So that texture is what's kind of holding the paint onto it, because otherwise this surface is very, very slick. Where normally some of the boards that I paint on looks more like this, where it's very, very smooth in terms of texture, but very absorbent, so it's not so slippery. Just a cool little interesting thing now that we have our zoom cameras. All right, so I'm just gonna keep moving my way over, and I'm gonna get to some variation here in just a second. And some of this is, I wanna fill in some of these sections and just sort of see where it takes me, because some of it, maybe I'm gonna end up altering it, like back here. I'm just gonna come back just for a second, lighten this one little line right there. And I'm gonna move back and forth through this because I'm gaining context as I go. So some of what I've done here, it looks a little too kind of yellow, a little bit green, and it needs to add a little more orange to it. So now that I've seen that context, because I have a little bit more of it down, I can adjust my colors and continue and be a little bit more accurate. Again, same reason why I don't really do premixes on the second layer rather, because I'm really trying to be very, very accurate with it. And you'll find that accuracy goes out the window if you do some premixes and then you hold to them. You have to be willing to change things. Try to be a little bit more fluid with your color mixing and your application, because there's a strong likelihood that you did something wrong the first time you mixed it. Certainly that's been my experience. So I'm mixing just the same color that I was doing just right here. A little bit of a darker version of it though. I'm just trying to pull that down just a little because as this comes over this way, we do get this darker section right here. Like I said, I am going to adjust the camera a little bit, I don't know, picture profile, I guess, the LUTs that I have applied to the camera so that we can see just a little bit better in the future. But this is our first time using the camera, so, well, the lens, this particular lens, the zoomed in lens, so gotta make some experiments before I can know exactly what to do. But I'm pretty happy with it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the zoomed in view, a little bit more of the brushwork that you wouldn't get otherwise. The brushwork that I'm doing, by the way, I'm sure you will notice most of what I'm doing is this sort of push down, scoop back up. It's this plane coming in, landing, and pulling back up. And that's a majority of what I'm going to do here because I'm trying to maintain these really smooth gradations all the way across and just doing these little kind of dabbing motions, but making sure to still kind of sweep and scoop those dabbing motions is the way to do it. At least that's what I have found. And it works with my hand really well. Pretty funny, when I was first learning, for whatever reason, I was not able to just do that motion with my hand. It just wasn't natural. I mean, I could do it, but I'd have to like go really slow and like really try, you know? And it's just wasn't working for me, but that's where practice comes in. Just do it over and over and over again until it becomes natural. So. And now, yeah, that's just the way I paint. All right, so I'm looking and trying to figure out, I'm moving my head around. I look like a dog who just heard his favorite word. And I'm looking and trying to see where my paint has ended on that left side there. So I want to continue down. As I said, I want one continuous paint layer here. I don't want to break things up. And eventually I will, by the way, I will have to break things up at the end of my painting session today. And I'll show you guys exactly what to do under that scenario because you really don't want lines. And I was doing it a little bit over on the other side of the painting. Where I was sort of spreading everything out and trying to get a better kind of blend into the nothingness of that first layer, of the rest of the first layer. And in this layer it becomes much more important. So we will do that as we reach the end of this session a little bit later. Certainly not there yet. We spent half of our time screwing around with things not functioning properly, so got plenty of time left. How long have we been going, actually?
45 minutes.
45 minutes? I feel like I've been painting for about 5 of those 45.
Well, that's probably accurate.
Probably accurate, yeah. I think it is. Yeah. We talked for a little while at the beginning as well. All right, so I'm putting some black in here, putting some darkness in here. Man, I think this camera angle is going to be really nice, really cool as we get into some more feature-rich spots, because right now it's all just sort of nebulous, abstract, paint region, so not a lot of fun things to look at over here, but it's important. It's important. These are the places, where you want people to kind of ignore it, but in order to have people ignore it, it has to be painted so well that they won't even notice it's there. And that's something that Anthony said in one of his paintings that he did while I was a student there. Is there was a bottle in the background, and he worked on that bottle. Man, he worked on it for such a long time, and I think he said that was the longest section of that painting, that he worked on that one the longest. And just because he didn't want you to look at it, It was the least important part of the painting for him, but a necessary element of the design of the painting. But he didn't want you to look at it, and so he had to spend all of that time getting you to not look at it, because if it were, you know, a little too important in the painting, you're gonna look at it. If it's a little too sharp, you're gonna look at it, because it was just, you know, often, you know, it was this blurry, out of focus little bottle in the back of the painting near a neutral colored wall. I think his wall was actually a tiny bit purple, which was also just a fun, cool thing about that painting, is that he made the wall just with the coloration of the painting. That wall was a little bit purple. And it was very fun to see that second layer of the painting when that wall became purple, because, man, as I was saying, I think it would have been 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you really don't want to add that alizarin crimson into your painting early on, because, man, it's such a thin layer, or such a thin paint, and you want that opaque layer at the beginning. So adding that in early means you're going to have a pain in the butt later on, and you're not going to have a consistent layer. So he painted this sort of gray wall and then slowly turned purple as he worked on it. It was cool. It was fun. Those are the aspects of painting that I find really fun and interesting. And unfortunately, none of that happens right here today. None of that fun and interesting is happening right here, but yeah, it's okay. I'm still having fun. I'm just going to lighten this section just a little bit. I'm going to do this from time to time, this sort of trying to bring out little sections, whether it means I'm following my reference or not. I do in general. I want to follow my reference pretty closely, but there are times like this that I don't know, I might just exaggerate little spots. I'm trying to visualize it as I go, and as I work on it, and I'm looking over at my reference, and I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe this little area could be exaggerated, and maybe I'll change it again later. Maybe, you know, I'll go back and I'll say, that was a bad decision. Really shouldn't have had that there. That's okay. That's okay. And it's the same with your overall drawing, your draftsmanship. You want to be able to be a good draftsman, to have, you know, those skills, because then if you decide later, I'm gonna change things, I'm gonna mess it up a little bit, that's fine. That's fine, because you were the one who drew it in the first place. You did it once, you can do it again. Same thing here. I'm gonna change things a little bit. I'm gonna alter it a little bit with the confidence that if I don't like it, that's fine. I can change it. So actually, that's the. There's a question?
Oh, no, I was just gonna mention, we're getting down into a part of the painting where now on screen the chat is starting to block it. So you could either, if you want to move it over a little, or I could just turn the chat off for this part.
I'll move you over a little bit.
That'll work. Perfect.
There you go. You can see a little bit of the reference now too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Some of the texture that you're seeing here, as we established earlier, is actually a reflection from the light. So if I put my hand over it, yeah, you see that? Some of that texture starts to go away. Of course, it just all does get darker, but some of that is not in the painting. I can't see that from here, where you can see all those little white specks. I can't see that. So I think later on, as we get closer to the end of the painting, we'll show you a more of a gallery sort of view, where the light is just right over top, and you can't really see those little tiny deficits in there, the little textural elements. All right, so I'm going to keep going. If you have any questions, yeah, do put them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer any questions, have something to talk about.
I'm actually kind of just wondering, what made you choose Midas? Like, out of all of the ideas that you've had, because I know you've had a few floating around recently, and you've like researched a few different things, but you ultimately landed on Midas, and I'm just wondering, where that came from.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have shown on stream here. I'm going to do it quickly because I don't want everyone to
I can switch to your calendar.
screen cap my, yeah, do that.
Okay, here it goes.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. And I'm gonna show it quickly because I don't want anyone screen capping all my ideas. But that big long list there, that is my paintings and compositions list. It's over 200 and something long, and Midas has been on that list for a little while. But in particular, I got this little tiny guy here, our little tiny friend Midas, and I thought, oh, this is just a good excuse to be able to do the composition. And you know, I didn't imagine this composition at this scale. Certainly, I tend not to think of things on a smaller scale. I tend to think of them on very large scale, but I got a little tiny Midas, so I figured it'd be fun to do a little tiny painting of him.
So you had it on the list
Yeah.
for a while, and
Yeah,
then
well.
like the king cake was what? But do you
Yeah.
remember like what put it on the list? What is it about Midas that's so interesting to you?
You know, all of the compositions that I do, that I write down, that I find interesting, that I think a lot about, they're all ones that I feel like have an interesting or theatrical in some way kind of story to them, that I can then apply my own meaning and message to. You know, they're a good vehicle for the painting that I'd like to do, because I don't want to just one-to-one depict here's exactly the message or meaning of the original story. That's not interesting to me, because painting is communication, and having, you know, your communication just be words someone else has said, it's just not interesting. Not very much fun to me. So, yeah, I like to use stories like this to put my own message to it, to add something of my own, and I felt like the story of King Midas is a pretty fun one, and I find it very funny that King Midas was such a fool that he incurred the wrath of the gods more than once. Never learned from it, by the way. And just hilarious. All of these stories were, you know, some great parables. That's why they got passed on. But he didn't learn from any of it. He just kept on being a fool. It's great. So yeah, I just wanted to. I'm sort of piggybacking off of the story of Midas in a way that allows me to do my own work. I just like that. Plus, actually, this painting in particular, I started doing because I just finished a very large painting, a Joan of Arc painting, that's in the studio behind me, which you can't see at this angle, but she's back there. And I did that one, and it was pretty loose. It wasn't as, you know, as tight and precise as normally I would paint. And I had a great time doing it. I spent a long time doing it though, and I wanted to do something a little bit tighter. I wanted to sort of push myself in that direction a little bit more. So I wanted to do a smaller painting that had some cool, fun tricks to it. And in this case, I wanted to do, you know, a lot of this out of focus, this swirly bokeh, this all these gold hues are pretty difficult to mix. I have struggled with those in the past, and I don't so much anymore, but you know, it's those challenges that I just really enjoy. So it all just sort of came together, just a bunch of different things that I was interested in all at the same time. So it came together quite nicely for me. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
There you go. All right, so you can see I'm moving on, but I'm not moving on in a single direction at a time. And if I'm honest, I don't know why I do that. I just sort of work wherever it takes me. And I was moving over this way, and then I started moving kind of down. And I'm trying not to get too low because I don't want to get off of screen here, but I just like moving where the brush takes me. I am all on the same section though, that's important. I don't want to move to a totally different area, a totally different section. I want to stay connected with what I'm currently working on. Even if that means I run all the way over to the right, but it's still all connected as one piece of painting, then that's fine, I can do that. I just don't want to move over to, I don't know, the right side of the painting without having completed the bridge in between. So that happens a lot of time when I work on faces. That happens a lot. I usually start up at the forehead, trying to get that light to dark kind of transition right on the forehead, that overall gradation, because that helps you really establish your light source and your value scale. So I usually start there, but then yeah, I build a bridge down to one part of the face and then maybe move over and complete the chin, and I just sort of run a big snake along and see where it takes me. All right, so in this instance, I'm going to double check my color with my laminated reference because it looks pretty bright. That little brush work that I did just now, that looks pretty bright to me. So I'm pretty sure that it's right, but I do want to double check. So that's where that little laminated reference comes in handy. And I put it on my laminated reference and found out, yep, that's right. I had it. Had no reason to doubt myself. Which means, though, that there are other things around it that might not be quite it. It means that some of that brown that I've got going on around it, some of that's a little bit dark. We can fix that. And I am just mixing and changing those colors, those hues. The value of it, of the paint that the kind of premixes that I'm doing, those are pretty close. So I'm actually not changing the value too much because I've got that string, that value string going on. So that one's not changing too much. But the actual color itself, that is. So I just want to establish where this ends. So I'm gonna come up with some of this dark brown here and just sort of establish that. What's up? You got a question in the chat?
Yes, Inez is in the chat.
Inez, good to hear from you.
She's asking, so the things in the painting related to Midas, were those also on your list and then you placed them together? Or you just looked at a bunch of gold things and selected them spontaneously to try them out?
So no, the rest of the things, it was, the list is very vague, and I try to keep the list very vague, because if I really start solidifying it and putting it into words, it means that I don't quite have the same amount of flexibility, or at least I feel like I don't have the same amount of flexibility to think of different options. And almost always you will find that your first thought about a composition, your first overall image of the idea is the worst one you will ever have. Your first thought, it may be pretty good, do it again. You'll find that it gets better. So I try to be pretty vague with my list, and I don't include, and I want it this size, and I want it, these colors, or in this way, or this ratio of size, whatever. I don't do that, and I intentionally don't do that. So that way, if I have something like Midas, where I had originally imagined it as a larger painting with a real person in it, I can start to reform that idea in my head with different aspects as things come to me differently. The overall story was the same, though. The overall idea is the same, that what he has been given, what Midas has been given, his power in order to make everything gold, comes not from this, power of the gods given to him so that he touches things and they become gold, but rather it's just gold paint. That was the idea. So the overall idea was the same. But yeah, the details of it have changed pretty wildly. And in some areas, some aspects, like you can see this whole object right here. This is the cap of a gold spray paint can. So you can't even tell what it is. That's unimportant. My message is the same. The composition is ultimately the same, and the things that went in behind it, those are still the same. So that's what's important to me. And as long as the painting looks good and it's a good composition, it doesn't matter if you can't tell what it is, because the message is still there regardless. So that one's just for me, and now it's for you, because now you know. I'm just taking some of my fish water here. Let's keep painting. I hope that answered your question, Inez.
She says, "Yay, thanks."
You know, it's really fun too. It gives me the ability to just focus on these compositional ideas sort of all the time. I'm always thinking about stuff, and it's a fun opportunity to just get to explore them. And sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. I took full references. I took full references of the last painting that I was going to do. I ended up just not doing it at all. And maybe someday I still will, so I won't bother telling you about it. But I took the full references of it. Honestly, there are some times that, like, I'm doing a painting for a specific purpose, and the purpose isn't the story, the message behind it. It's more, I'm trying to diversify the type of paintings that I do, either in terms of size or subject matter. And I sort of let that move me to one direction or another. And usually those are the most frustrating paintings, because I'm not just doing whatever I want, I'm doing something because I feel like I should. And in that instance, I almost always come out with a painting that I really enjoy, that I really like anyway, because it's still me, it's still my paintings, and it's still something that probably I would have done, but just not at that time, not in that moment. Maybe that wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing right then. That's really frustrating. But yeah, I tend to do that probably too often. That's just the pressure of an artist. You feel like you should be doing certain things, and therefore you do. And in the instance of the last reference that I took, that's exactly what was happening. Is I felt that I should be doing this type of painting, and so I started working on a reference, and I got frustrated, and I thought, you know what, I can do this painting whenever. I took the references, I completed what I wanted to complete with those references, and then I put it away, and maybe I'll look at it again when I'm ready, but not right now. Not ready today. So I'm coming across some issues here due to the kind of shift in height and everything of the reference that you guys can see. You probably can't tell exactly what's going on, but I'm coming across some drawing issues here that I managed to put in previously, and in not paying attention and in moving down to the left right here, I kind of re-established those same drawing issues. I put them in twice. So I'm going to have to wipe out this little section right here and resolve those drawing issues. It's actually, I'm sure you can see this dark line right here. This dark line needs to move over to the right, and there should be another dark line right here. And I've sort of pushed the two together and conflated the two, and that must have happened somewhere in my first layer, and I've allowed it to continue here on the second layer. Can't let it go. So I'm actually going to keep moving over here right now because I'm just enjoying this little spot. So I'm not going to get to it just yet, but you're going to see me pretty soon. I'm going to have to wipe out that section. Not a big deal. Like I said earlier, I'm the one who put it in the first place. I can do it again. I'm not worried about it. There we go. It's actually one of the best arguments I have heard for, there's a conversation, there always has been, around people like using cameras or projectors or tracing or something like that and cheating with artwork, that I find very funny, because you very, very rarely hear that kind of talk from professional artists. Because if you were a professional artist, you would know that it doesn't quite work that way. If you were the kind of person who would use a calculator, for instance, did you learn to use your calculator after you learned how to add and subtract? Probably. And if you learned how to add and subtract afterward, probably wouldn't make so much sense to you. Or addition, multiplication, anything like that. You use a calculator afterward. And it's about the same with tracing tools, projectors, whatever it is. That if you rely on it, if you have to use it because you can't use it without, or you can't draw or paint without it, don't use it. It's a deficit in your skill set. You need to get better than that. If you can do it without it, if you know how to add and subtract and everything without a calculator, and it's just faster for you to use the calculator, use it. Who cares? Fine. No one cares. No one cares. And then when you get to a section like this, if I didn't know how to, do some decent draftsmanship, and if I didn't know how to draw things in like that, and I got to a section where something needed to be moved, I'd be in trouble if I had to rely on a, projector for this sort of thing. Ooh, oh no. That's why you don't use it if you have to use it. If you don't have to use it, you could use it. It's okay. It's fine. Personally, I have actually found that my eye is more accurate than if I were to use a projector and project the work and then trace over the projection. At least, I don't know, I did try it once and I was using a very cheap projector, so maybe that's it, but the pixels of the projection were very big, and I was like, man, I can just do this better by myself. So I scrapped the projector. It just was not helpful. There we go. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. We'll bend this over to the left just a little bit more. But all the time, you get some newer artists, some young students who they'll be drawing out like a form box or something that we do pretty early on in the program here. And they'll draw out a form box, and it's this, complicated for them, like a sphere and a sphere housing and, something next to it. And at some point they got something the wrong size. And they feel like, they had spent all of this time on the ellipse of the sphere housing because it was turned just a little bit, and it looks so good. And then it turns out you got to move it. And they say, well, I don't know if I can, I spent so much time on it, and man, it was so difficult. I don't know if I can move it now, so maybe I can just kind of flub it a little bit. And that's always the answer. It's like, maybe I can just sort of figure it. No, you got to move it. And that's always the answer is, well, you're good enough to have done it once. Should be good enough to have done it a second time. I'm sure you can figure it out. And then you see artists come in. Very funny. I do love this. This is the other side of that coin, where you'll see someone come in and they'll have a body of work that they want to show you, to really demonstrate how good they are. And one or a couple of the pieces are just perfect draftsmanship, just really, really nice drawing. And you can tell right away that it doesn't match something else in their work. Like maybe their value scaling is just all over the place, or no ability to color match, something like that. So one of their skills is dramatically better than the others. It's because they did not build that skill. Maybe they're tracing, maybe something like that. And you can really tell, because normally all of those skills just build all at the same time. So you trace a drawing, you trace a painting, anything like that. Maybe it looks, proportionally accurate, something like that, and you can definitely have it look better, but the rest of the skills, they don't follow it. So building all those skills at the same time, definitely the best way to make your artwork better. Do you have a question?
Chris just said something funny when you were talking about the form box and correcting something in the form box. He said, "In sandpaper we trust."
Yes, Chris. Yes, Chris Rare. So yeah, Chris is he's referencing burnishing your paper, and that happens when you're working on the cans. I think it's Canson paper that we use here. Sorry, I have an itch on my leg. Do you guys ever just like hold a brush in your mouth? Probably shouldn't if you have paint on it. Do you ever just like stick it in your glasses? Because you could do that too. Anyway, sorry. What's that?
Probably more hygienic to glasses.
I think it probably is. I don't know. I could be a very cool, fancy artist and like. I wonder if I could. Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if I could paint like this. I'm not gonna do it. But I wonder if I could. That'd be funny. My neck would hurt very bad. Anyway, so sorry I get distracted. Yeah, sandpaper. What Chris Herrera is talking about is when you use, I think it's Canson that we use. When you use this paper, well, when you use pretty well any paper with any kind of a tooth or texture to it, you use these black and white pencils, and that white, it's a pretty hard pencil, so. You try to cover up something dark with it, you try to move things too much, you don't hit the eraser as often as you should, instead you just start covering over things. You're going to push down on the texture of the paper too much, you'll flatten it, and then it can't accept any charcoal or white chalk anymore. And that's called burnishing, when it's just totally flat, there's no tooth in order to keep any of that value coming in. And so you put your pencil down and it scrapes up value instead of putting new material in. And that's burnishing. And the only thing to do about it is take some sandpaper to your drawing, which I don't know. It's possible that other programs would have you use sandpaper as a tool for drawing in the same way, but I've never heard of that before. I think Anthony was the first person that I have ever seen sand down a drawing because you made a mistake. Really cool, really interesting. But yeah, that's what he's referring to. You make some mistakes, you burnish your paper, sorry, gotta sand it down. Brutal. Nerve-wracking too, the first couple times you do it. Really stressful.
Could you use a Dremel?
Could you use a Dremel? Yeah, I mean, if you wanted a hole in your paper, easy. Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
Inez, when you were putting your brush in different places, she appreciated the glasses. She hadn't seen that. She didn't know that. But she did say she sticks it in her hair a lot.
I don't have a lot of hair to stick it in. So, hold on, I gotta do my Donald Duck. You guys are gonna love this. So, when you put on a beret like this, I love this. When you put on this beret, this is how it looks at first. And sometimes I wanna leave it like this. I wanna just like, I have a like mega mind moment, you know?
It looks like popcorn, like a popcorn bag.
Yeah. How's our stream health looking?
Still excellent.
Better? I don't know what happened right at the beginning there. We had so many issues. I don't know. It's the Dominican Republic. You never know. You never know. You know, we're actually, Rachel and I are going on a little mini vacation here in the DR pretty soon. Very excited about it. It's going to be really cool. We're going to, is it Puerto Plata?
Puerto Plata.
Going to Puerto Plata. We're going to stay at a resort. We've been here for almost 2 years now, and we've never had like the tourist experience. So it's going to be really fun. I'm going to wear flip-flops and I don't know.
Just like white sunscreen on your nose, not rubbed in.
Yeah, a Hawaiian shirt and floral short shorts, blinding everyone with my white legs. That'll be fun.
You can have your camera and its camera strap around your neck.
I'm going to very intentionally mispronounce Spanish words.
Chris suggests flip-flops and socks.
Yeah, flip-flops and high socks. That's what I'm going to wear. You got it, man. That's it exactly. I'd like some agua and some toast tones.
Tortillas?
Tortillas? Who are we making fun of here? It's somebody.
Ourselves, I'm pretty sure.
I've never said any of those things. I will say Spanish, we've been here again, almost 2 years now. Spanish, for whatever reason, does not work in my mouth. It doesn't sound good coming out of me. It doesn't sound that bad, that's for sure. But yeah, it just doesn't quite work for me. Rachel's got this cool accent. She sounds so chill and relaxed, which everybody in the DR sounds so chill and relaxed. That's the accent. But I get up in the morning and I come and unlock the studio, and our cook Leo, she's already here, and I say, buenos dias, and she says, buenas, and I'm like, how?
You do fine. You just have an American accent.
Everybody else sounds so cool that
Just keep going. You'll get it.
Yeah, we did find that French works really well for me for some reason.
Yeah, and I can't do French.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have that I have Spanish streak in me, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, we're just gonna be total Americans for a little while. Only because everyone is absolutely expecting it. We're going to one of these all-inclusive resort kind of things where that's where tourists go. So we're gonna be tourists about it. And we're gonna actually this moving camera we've got here, that's coming with us, so we'll give you a little tour maybe.
Yeah, it's a nice small size. Mm-hmm. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, this camera,
to travel with.
This is a little tiny camera. Pretty cool. One of these times, actually, I'm going to have to do a little setup tour of all of our cameras and everything. I'm still not totally confident that this is the setup that we're going to keep, though. And definitely, we're going to have quite a change in our setup and everything this summer, I think. I know I keep saying that, but... so yeah, we're going to change some things up, and when we do that, I'm sure I will have a... different setup tour to do. But yeah, in the meantime, I don't know, maybe we'll take you through it all. I don't know what we'll film the tour on, considering we're using every piece of film equipment we own.
We could just use one of our phones.
That's why we're not using phones for this. It's because the quality just isn't there. All right, I'm getting to a point where I have to start moving back down, in which case I'm gonna have to fix this area, so yeah, I've been avoiding it, but gonna have to do it. I'm also, you may have noticed as I move towards the right, there's this section right here. It's a little bit green. Oh, actually, yeah, wow, looking at the monitor, I don't know, maybe it's just my monitor. You can't see that at all in my monitor. I don't know about, how's it over there? Can't see that? Yeah, there's a little area right here that sweeps down. It's a little bit green. So I am gonna have to adjust that, and maybe, I'm not so sure. Maybe that's something that I'm gonna put in a little bit later, just sort of glaze that color in. I'm not sure yet. I'll think about it. We'll see.
I do like that green in there. How did you choose, how did that end up in there in the first place?
Yeah, so when I was taking pictures, and this is going to be in the video, I'm going to do a big long YouTube video. about how I made this reference and the stages that I went through in making the reference, because my initial reference was pretty poor, if I'm honest. It always is. I mean, my first shot at it, as I said, your first try at a composition is always your worst one. So you should keep going with it. So my first one wasn't as complicated. It was a little more boring. wasn't as interesting, and didn't have all of this. You know, actually, can you go to the wide there? Didn't have all of this detail back here. None of that bokeh existed. Actually, this whole chain wasn't in there. This splash of red with the brush got in there pretty quick, but that wasn't in there right at first. Him and his reflection, that was really early on. This came in really early on. This did come in really early on, but the red wasn't as pronounced. And this ball back here was not there at all. So as I developed it, this background came in next. The red came in pretty fast. That was already all kind of back there. And then the chain came in. This ball was over here originally, and then the chain moved it over to the other side. And I felt that I needed a lot more color. Because just the gold, while very cool, was pretty one note. So the background started becoming pretty blue to match his robe there. And the red of the brush matches his red, so just giving a little bit more. And then it needed some green. We were missing green. So actually what I did is, at first, I didn't have it green. I had my computer screen over to the left. And I was running a video of just like changing strobing kind of visualization, you know, of music, different colors, and just letting it go and just seeing what happened, and taking shots of it, and eventually finding these reflections starting to pop up, and slowly dialing in the color and where it was on the screen and everything after that. So pretty organic in that instance. Not accidental for sure, but organic. So the green, you know, I kind of slowly zoomed in on, and it gets reflected in a lot of this over here. You can see this bright kind of teal. Oh, there it is. It's kind of bright teal over here. That's actually reflected. It's also from the screen over here. So it's not all just this green. It's a few colors in a few different areas, all getting reflected around. So yeah, that's sort of the way that most of the composition that I do goes, is that I've got a pretty good idea, I put it together, I say, wow, this is not very good, and then I try it again. And then I slowly just, you know, zoom in on exactly the detail that I'm looking for and move things around very subtly. And the farther in I get on that composition, the less things move. And so at first it was these two, that's how it started. And they were moving all over the place, and my camera angle was changing, and the lights were changing, everything was moving. And then I found something that I liked with that, and so they stopped moving, and my light stopped moving, my camera stopped moving, and then other things shifted around them, and then those found their correct place and they stopped moving. And the adjustments got smaller and smaller and smaller until the final adjustment ended up being, you know, 15, 20 different shots just of chains, just shifting a little bit at a time, and then one where this ball was here, one where it was here, just moving little by little. The brush actually got rotated like that. So little changes like that. So yeah, it all gets more and more precise as you go. All right, so yeah, we're moving down to right here. Yep, we gotta fix this area. And in an effort to not just muddy up my darks, because I've got some kind of gray next to all of my darks here, and I don't want to just get those darks really, I don't know, milky, you know? They just don't quite look right when you got that black next to something a little bit too light. They all just contaminate and mix together. So in an effort not to do that, I'm going to take away my light sections right here. I'm just going to brush these out. And my paint's moving just a little bit. Okay. So I'm just going to press. You know what? Yeah, my canvas is moving. So I'm going to do this two-handed here. I'm going to hold it with one hand. There we go. So I'm just gonna press up on this, just get rid of some of this. You can see it's not really changing it too much. And that's fine. I don't wanna, I'm not looking to get back down to bare panel. I just want to take away any excess material. And you can see, it kind of pushes up and kind of sticks there, and that's fine too. It's because I'm using so little paint at this point. I'm being really quite delicate with my paint application that there's no real excess of paint in order to move. So I'm just taking off what little bit I can so it doesn't contaminate what's around it, and that's it, and I'll keep going.
Real quick, Inez just says thank you, talking about composition, that it's just nice to understand that it is a process, and you just have to keep going until you find the perfect place for everything.
Yeah, I really enjoy compositional work. I really like it. By the way, here, just before we continue, I'm moving this line from right there to right there. That's it. That's it. Had to do this whole part over again just to move that line from right there to right there. Yep, tiny bit. Yeah, I really enjoy composition. I really like it. And I feel like there are a lot of people get very frustrated by composition because it's the sort of thing that you don't get right, especially right away. It's never quite right. And you have to come back to it and you have to try again over and over and over again. It can be really frustrating. And I do get frustrated with it from time to time, but it's a fun challenge. It's always really enjoyable. Even when I'm frustrated about it, I always just really enjoy it.
I think it's a lot of fun. And just going into it with the mindset of, that's like a big part of the day. It's like, oh, okay, today's the photo shoot, basically. Yeah. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like, I remember moving all the lights around and looking at the painting, you would never know, but it was like totally dark in here, and then just trying different things. And I know we had a lot of fun when you were composing The Tale of the Curious Oysters, because there were just so many elements to it, and we had like gone a lot of different places. We went to the beach to get sand, we went to the seafood boil to get the oysters.
Well, to be fair, we went to the seafood boil to eat seafood, but just by happenstance, we also got some oyster shells there. But
yeah, I think if you go into it with like just knowing, okay, this is gonna take a while. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really one to talk because I'm not the one that has to paint it after, but I just think the process itself is fun.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. That's really cool to me. There are a lot of times when I will do a full composition and it's just right immediately. But that's rare. And I think the fun of it usually is in testing things out and trying it out, and you end up discovering things about yourself and your artistic philosophy with your work, and maybe some of the things that you do or don't like about your own work, and you do or don't like about other people's work, and why. And I think that's really interesting, and I think it says a lot about you as an artist to be able to recognize those things and really bring it into your work. And that's a big part of why it's so interesting to me. Is it very rarely with me starts with an idea from nothing. It almost always starts with other work that I've seen, usually very old work that I've seen that I really enjoy, and trying to figure out why I enjoy it, and sort of parsing that out, both about my ideology of artwork and also my personal aesthetic likes. Make sense? I'm focusing a little bit on my painting, so my words are getting a little jumbled up here, but...
Chris has an interesting question. Are you inspired by the objects themselves, or do you have the story that you want to tell already in mind, and then you find the objects that tell that story?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Like for this one's a really good example of that. I already had the story in mind, And I otherwise would not have done this story, except I found this little guy. So yeah, kind of both. I was inspired to do a specific story, and then I was inspired to do that specific story in this specific way by this little object. So yeah, both.
I left part of his question out. Are there certain objects that you really like to paint?
Ooh, good question. We had a similar question. I think it was the first week of like my favorite color or something, or was there one that was also objects?
I don't think objects.
I don't know. I don't remember. But if I'm honest, I treat everything the exact same. So there are some things that are more fun and some things that are far less fun. Like the cap on this paint tube here was not fun, and it's not going to be fun. But honestly, you treat it all the same. There's some things that are more interesting to paint, like smoke. Smoke is really cool and interesting to paint. But ultimately, when you're painting it, you treat it all the same. It's just a change of value or chroma or hue in one direction or another, over and over and over again. Pay attention to your edge quality. That's about it. I know it doesn't make it sound very romantic, but the actual act of painting is usually not very romantic. That's why I love the composition of it so much, because that's the part that's so cool and interesting.
I'm trying to think. The only actual object I can think of that's made it into multiple compositions for you is that model ship of the Gorschfach. That was in...
Hey, watch your language.
That's what it's called.
That is what it's called.
But I think the first thing that was in was the Eternal Garden.
Yep.
Your gauntlet, and then it came back in The Tale of the Curious Oysters.
It did, yeah. Yeah, that little model ship is really cool, and I think that more says something about my affinity to model ships, and, well-built, wooden pieces and handmade miniatures and stuff like that. I really like that. But, I think it says more about how much I like those things than it does that I like to paint them.
Yeah, like this little ceramic guy. He's different, but you did that lead soldier. It's sort of a similar...
Yeah, little figures. Yeah, those are fun. Yeah, and I don't have really any strong attachment to any of those things. I usually don't keep a lot of the things that end up in my paintings, just because I don't like having a lot of clutter around. So I don't usually keep any of the stuff that I paint with, especially now. We're here in the DR. We had to get rid of most of our things to come here. I think we got here in 6 suitcases total, 2 backpacks,
2 backpacks,
2 carry-ons, 2
carry-ons, 2 checked bags.
2 checked bags, yeah.
So yeah.
So we had very little coming here, and we haven't really collected much.
But I love little things. I want to hoard them, but I can't. But the Gorschfach we do still have, and that little lead soldier I'm pretty sure we still have.
Do we?
I'm sure we do, because that was my dad's when he was a kid.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we wouldn't have got rid of that.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that I don't actually have really much sentimental value to those things myself. But I love to put them in paintings, and I love to see them and bring some of that, whimsy to my work.
Yeah, I love those fun little things. Like, did we keep those, the scissors that you got for Eternal Garden that have the bird on the handle?
I don't think so.
No. Those were so cool.
Yeah. Those were pretty fun.
Oh yeah, your mom's commenting as well that she got to see the composition process for the Curious Oysters painting.
Yes.
That was on their dining room table.
It was, yeah. The initial layout of all that, yeah, was at my parents' house. on their round dining room table. I've done several drawings and paintings on like rounded tables like that, and if I'm showing the edge of a work, I really like that rounded front leading edge, and they had one, so that's where we put it.
You did the journeyman like that too when we were in Pennsylvania.
On a rounded what?
Yeah, on the round dining room table, wasn't it? It had like the things that you could flip up.
The journeyman?
Yeah.
Eternal Garden, I think, is maybe what you're thinking of. The journeyman I was in, and I don't fit on a table.
Was that the card table did we set up in the back? I'm gonna have to look at it.
I don't know. There's no curved leading edge in the journeyman, though. I know that. In fact, there's no leading edge in the journeyman because I was in front of all of it. So.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it. I do see. We used some table, but it was square.
Yeah. Yeah, Eternal Garden though did have that curved leading edge also. I find it very interesting. You look at somebody's work, you can find compositional consistencies in their work, and I am interested to know if there are artists out there really thinking about those consistencies and why they tend to do it that way, and you know, if they're really putting thought into it, because I am. I'm really thinking about why I might want to do something in that way, and thinking, well, could I do it better if I were to change it, or is it truly just an aesthetic quality that I just really like and I should therefore continue with? I don't know. I really think about these things, and I don't know if it makes it better or not, but yeah, it's part of the exploration for me that I enjoy thinking about it. I want to know if everybody does that, or if you just put something out and you say, this looks good and I like it, and so I'm going to do it. I don't know.
Well, you certainly don't worry about making a mess.
Nope.
But I respect that.
No, but only because I know I'm going to clean it up.
Yes,
so.
You always do clean it up.
I don't like having messes. So it means that if I do create a mess, I don't like having it there. So I'm going to clean it up.
It's all about your attitude. Same thing like we were talking about earlier with Inez. If you go into it knowing, one, it's going to take a long time until you get everything just right. And then if you also go in knowing, okay, I'm going to make a mess, but that's just part of the process.
Yep.
Just trust the process.
Yeah, you gotta be free in your creativity to just make huge, horrible messes all the time. That's just part of it. All right, so I'm going back in. I put a little too much orange on this color here, and instead of trying to fix it and push it around and try to get it closer to the correct color, easier just to wipe it off, do it again. By the way, if any of you are aspiring artists doing something similar, that is advice that I hold to, is that sometimes, no matter how far you've gotten into your painting, easier to just wipe it off. Stop struggling, just wipe it off, just get rid of it, it's fine. Joan of Arc, the face of the main model, I must have done that face, I want to say 4 times. And every time I would do it and I'd say, that sucks, and I'd wipe it off and I'd do it again. I just kept doing it. And there was a day that I had completely finished it, and then the next day I came in and I was like, I can do better than this. And I painted over top of it, let it dry, and then came in the next day and did the whole thing over again. And Rachel was crushed.
Well, no, I wasn't crushed. It just made filming the time lapse really hard. I think it blended together pretty well, though.
Every time I did it, though, it was always better.
That is true.
It always improved. That's what's important. Comes back to what we were saying earlier. If you could do it once, you could do it again. Don't be afraid to wipe it off. Let it go. All right, so There we go. We're getting into the fix of that that little area that we wiped off before. I think I have most of it kind of blocked in a little bit better now. We are going over top of areas on the previous layer that were not great. That's where the issue originated, is on the first layer. And I should have caught that on the first layer. I usually do. For some reason I let it go on the first layer. Maybe I just didn't see it. But because of that, we're now overlapping some areas, and the transparency of the paint means that we're going to see those areas kind of pop up. What that means for me here is that my paint is a little more opaque than I would like, just so I can cover everything over. And it also means I'm probably going to end up on a third layer for this section. I try to think about everything as my final layer. I try to think, well, first layer, you can't really do that. Second, though, I do try to think of it as my final layer. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes it is. Most of the time, I at least have, one little adjustment layer, a glazing layer, a pass to just sort of get everything working together. In this area, though, I do think I'm going to end up needing to go back in just to make sure that it's all exactly covered and where it belongs. You're not seeing anything underneath it, because right now I definitely am. I don't want to keep seeing that, so I'm going to do the best that I can with this, and I'm going to, before we get too far, I'm going to look around and see what I have done and what I haven't, and we're going to blend some of this together a little bit more, and then yeah, I think I'm just going to have to go back on a third layer in this spot and really get it a little bit nicer, a little bit more solidified, because I'm not quite happy with it here. That's okay. Not the end of the world. I mean, this is the nice part about indirect painting methods like this, where you're not doing it all in one shot. You're trying to do it all in one shot, and if something doesn't work out, you need to adjust it later, anything like that, fine, no big deal. You can do it. Is that my chair? Yeah, my chair's got a squeak to it. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but hear that? It sounds like a little bird.
This whole time I thought it was a bird.
Yeah, no, my chair. All right. No, I know what it is. It's the little rail for my feet. It's in the wrong spot. All right. So I'm also not getting the amount of specificity with this that I would like on my second layer. That's definitely going to need to be fixed as we continue. Right now, because I'm doing this kind of blurriness, I haven't been focused on it too much. And the farther I get in, the more I am going to have to focus on that specificity. And most likely, because I am moving and adjusting a bunch of things here, I'm going to end up going back and doing a third layer, probably on this whole area here, which is fine. But I'm just going to have to keep that in mind. So I'm going to blend some of this out now. And what I'm going to use to do that, I've got a few options here. I'm going to show these off. So I have these. These are, you hear these clanking around all over the place. These are Dynasty brushes. They're Dynasty 4 and 6. You can see them right here. Oh, okay. Yep. So those are Dynasties, and they're pretty small. And we also have, actually, why don't you zoom in again? They're pretty small brushes here. So we've got this little brush. You can see there. And this is an Ebony Splendor from Creative Mark. I don't think I've used that one yet. We also have a watercolor oval mop brush for blending things out. And these two, these are makeup brushes. These are duo fiber eye brush and a duo fiber contour brush. Ooh, how pretty. I won't be getting more beautiful though, but hopefully my painting will. So I think I'm going to start with some of these dynasties, and if we need something else after that, then we've got plenty to use. But we're going to start just here on this dynasty number 6. You may have seen me using these on my first layer. I usually just blend things out a little bit on my first layer with these. It's also what I'm using to pull dust or lint or anything out of my painting. I tend to use these, but pushing up on them like that. So I'm just gonna do a couple little passes just to get rid of some edges with these first. And if that's all I need on this pass today, then that's all I'll do. But if I need to smooth anything out anymore, I'll probably end up going to those duo fiber brushes. Yeah, definitely I let some of the specificity go on a couple of these areas, especially right here, this area that we fixed, actually, yeah, right around here. Let some of the specificity go, and I don't like that, but in order to keep the opacity up for my coverage of my previous mistake, I'm afraid I just had to do that. That's what happens. You know what you can do about that? Don't make mistakes. That's what I tell all my students. They're like, well, what do I do to fix it? I'm like, I don't know, just don't make mistakes, just be a better artist. I don't know. Don't say that. Actually, I probably do say that, but then I also tell them, you know, here's the solution to your problem. But one thing you can expect when you go through the ÀNI program, you're going to be told how bad you are at things. It's how you improve, it's how you learn. Anthony actually put out a very interesting article about comparing yourself to others and how beneficial it can be. And honestly, not just beneficial, necessary it is. Your comparisons of your work and of other people's work, it's how you develop. And you know, people who say, well, you know, you shouldn't compare yourself to others, that stifles your creativity. No, that is creativity. That's what allows creativity, is looking at other work and putting those ideas together in a creative way, and that's what creates new work. So that's part of creativity. And if comparing yourself to others tends to make you feel inadequate in some way, those are the feelings that you use to improve, and try not to be discouraged by them. Although honestly, you can say that with pretty well anything, that you can find discouragement in many, many things depending on your mindset, but allowing that discouragement to grow and defeat your creativity, can't do that. That's no way to improve. All right, well, anyway, spiel over. Listen, I think, yeah, we're getting pretty flat. So I'm just going to show you our texture here. You can see there are no brush strokes there. There's no, I was working top to bottom, those vertical brush strokes, so they're all pretty well gone. Not really seeing much of that there. If I were seeing brush strokes, I would be very careful to take them out. You can also see from the shininess where I stopped. And you can see that that edge is very smooth. It's not like there's a big ridge in that edge. So I was careful to sort of brush out that edge and try to kind of blend it in, because you've got that high topography and the low topography of the previous layer, and so kind of blending that ramp down means that I won't get any edges as I continue with tomorrow's painting session. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think actually, so this is going to be pretty well dry by tomorrow, just because I'm using so little paint. So I think tomorrow, as I continue with this, I'm probably going to go back into that lower area that we did today, this one here, and just try to get that a little bit more specific, a little bit closer in texture to my reference as I continue. And that way, maybe I can avoid doing a third layer on this whole thing. Maybe not, we'll see. But I will deal with that tomorrow. And I so appreciate all of you joining me here today. I appreciate all of you liking and commenting and being part of the conversation. That's really, really nice of you. And by the way, if you want to be alerted every time I go live, make sure to subscribe. And I'm also going to be putting out full videos instead of just live streams. I'll be putting out videos later on, and you can subscribe and you'll get told all about those when it happens. Thank you so much for joining me. And by the time you see me next week, I should be farther along on this painting. I want to see if I can get into maybe Midas himself. We can work on him next week. So thank you so much for joining me. Rachel, do you have anything to say? Anything else in the chat? Anyone last minute questions? Anything like that?
Let's take a look.
Last chance. Get them in fast.
Well, you know, I always say, as always, be excellent
You need to get
each
a
other.
different. Oh my God.
Inez says, thank you guys so much for sharing with us. It's a pleasure. It really is.
Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week. And the week after that is our vacation. So after next week, we may not have a weekend live stream. I don't know. We'll see. And yeah, at some point, I think we're going to test out streaming during the week. We'll see about that. I don't know. All right. Well, that's it. That's all we got today. Thanks for painting with us. See you next time.